Beyond.
Wow.
Oh, we said that was good.
That was good. That was really nice.
What's up?
Hey. Welcome to Podcast Beyond episode. I don't have the number written down anywhere.
Doesn't matter.
I'm Max Coble. Joining me, Alana Pierce.
Greets.
Brian Altano.
Greets.
And enemy box owner, Ryan McCaffrey.
Top of the mountain to you.
Hey, what's up? So you're known for being, you're actually wearing an Xbox shirt right now.
I am today.
We're going to have that seat sprayed down after you
That's
leave.
fine.
But no, we had you on because you're actually going to be covering, I just want to jump right into this, you're going to be covering the PlayStation mystery event that's happening real soon?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, I love hardware. I mean, I own a PS4, I own an Xbox, I have a gaming PC, I play everything except Wii U. It's too expensive.
Aww.
Why?
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, this is the year to buy it, though. If you're on the fence, no.
No, it's not.
No.
But yeah, I love hardware launches.
Yeah.
They're always exciting to me. And so I'm happy to be able to go cover this for IGN and get a front row seat to we're assuming the Neo is going to be shown.
Which
Now,
they're not calling it that,
No.
right?
It's the PlayStation meeting.
Okay.
Yeah,
At
so
the
I was
PlayStation
gonna ask-
That's a bad
I was
name
gonna
for a console.
We go back and forth on what we think things are going to be so often that sometimes it's very easy to just forget what we actually know. What do we actually know about this? It's called the PlayStation Meeting. Anything beyond that?
And it's
Beyond?
so the quote is it's about the future of is it just an update to the PlayStation, an update on the PlayStation business, or the future of, I have to look at my whatever the invitation says.
Okay, so a couple things have happened. We got the leaked PlayStation Slim, basically that popped up.
Whoops.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Not
big
only
surprise
leaked,
there.
but released in some places. People have
Unboxed
done
on YouTube.
unboxing
I just read
videos.
a review of it. Apparently, it's great, except for the optical. It's quieter and smaller and cleaner than the
Yeah,
new controllers.
Laura Kay, who's a friend of the show, former Destructoid, just unboxed it, which I don't know if they're going to tear that video down or what. Like, is this the first time something's been unboxed before it's been officially announced?
I think so.
Yeah.
How
crazy.
did this happen?
I don't know.
I think French
How-
guys stole it off a truck.
Maybe?
so?
French guys are always stealing
Like
stuff
if it
off
was
trucks.
theft, that's the only way that
Like
it
they
makes
stole
sense.
those Modern Warfare 3s. Remember that?
Well, I'm not going to
That's
go
right.
blame
Yeah.
French
Yeah.
guys. But
So slim
The
consoles.
French. Thanks, guys.
Console revisions have usually they don't add features. Usually
Yeah.
they do actually take them away. Like the PlayStation 3 Slim got rid of hardware-enabled PS2 backwards compatibility. I'm actually super bothered by the removal of the optical port on the PS4 Slim, which, again, colloquial name, we don't know what it's actually called.
Yep.
Because I here at work and at home, I use Astro A40 headphones through the optical
Me too.
port. You can still get 5.1 surround sound through HDMI, but you need a receiver for that.
Right.
So I'm really disappointed in the Slim.
Sure.
In the Slim that doesn't even exist and isn't even out yet.
Right.
Okay, so
Yes.
wait, if people have done unboxings, what does the box say on it?
Nothing.
Just PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
So how do we know that this isn't the Neo?
It's because it performs exactly the same.
Okay.
I mean, we don't. It could also be. I mean, they tested it and they're like, this is the same. It's the same machine. You know,
Okay, so it's literally
It'd be
doing
pretty
something.
awesome if there was just like Neo hardware inside there. Like, hey, we didn't
Just
tell anyone.
hiding.
No, I mean, apparently, they tried screwing with settings and going through menus and everything, but
Everything's the same.
Yeah, it behaves the same. I guess
I'm with you
excited.
on like removing stuff is not a good look. Like,
It's cost savings, like because
Yeah.
the APU, the chip inside the Slim, it's smaller. Same thing with the Xbox One S.
Right.
It's like the chip gets smaller so that they can fit more of them on a single wafer, and thus the cost goes down to make it.
Yeah.
And it runs cooler and probably quieter too. But yeah, like. They're also saving a few pennies on each box by getting rid of the optical port.
I think
Yeah.
the reality
Come on,
is
man.
that the people who are the types who are going to have Astro headsets are the ones who already have a system like that.
Yeah, but those same people are buying Xbox One S's right now.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we already have an Xbox One, but man, the 4K and the HDR, so like it's always that weird line to walk,
Yeah.
right?
It's kind of the same as the Xbox One getting rid of the Kinect.
yeah,
Less people care, but
Right. It's-
it doesn't have a Kinect port anymore. And
I would say
that's
if you
true.
want to save a couple pennies on every PS4, get rid of the touchpad. Just ditch it. Put a big win button there because that's basically what it is in 2016 anyway.
Yeah.
Most games, it's just it's like a map button. That's it.
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the select. It's the replacement for the select button.
I
The
do
other
like,
one's
I do
the
like,
share button.
I
Exactly.
like that they've managed for some stuff for just gesture support. Like it's kind of finicky, but like in The Witcher, for instance, if you just swipe up, it brings up your map as opposed to having to hit 3 buttons instead
I
of just
feel
one.
like in Uncharted 4, I was prompted to this part where you have to like flick a, what's that called, lighter?
Yeah,
And I think that it used a touchpad.
probably.
I feel like it did. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if I remember that.
Might have
don't
been
know.
Until Dawn. I think it was one of the
Yeah.
two.
Yeah, that said, I think that, I mean, I think there's going to be some kind of like, Astro will put out some kind of like USB adapter or something.
Oh yeah,
other,
totally.
You know?
Yeah.
So I have to pay another $30 to get my Astro functionality.
So
Or you could just use the free earbud that comes with it and plug it into the bottom of the controller, and
But that's not 5.1 surround sound audio, Max.
just I don't know.
That's McCaffrey's voice at home.
Yeah,
That's how I talk on PSN.
just turn it up louder. Who cares?
So let's talk about the Neo then, because I want to know where this console fits in the timeline of whatever the console wars are right now, or this generation of hardware.
It's like a Cold War.
It is a Cold War. It feels like this is sort of a direct response to what happened with Microsoft at E3, because they showed their hand early and they said, this is what we're working on. We have two systems at the same time. One of them we're not really talking about yet, and one is you can buy now. So do you think that and for you look at what Sony's doing right now, they're how many 30 million ahead, 20 million ahead, or something like that?
2 to 1 ahead.
Yeah, 2 to 1. They technically don't need to do anything, and yet,
except where complacency is just like asking to die.
That's true. That's true. So, where do you think? Is this thing a direct response to what Microsoft's doing?
No, because I think didn't the rumors of Neo pop up long before the rumors of Scorpio did?
Yeah.
So I think these have both just kind of been in development in parallel, and both of them see the world of smartphones and the fact that okay, well, we've got x86 based architecture for these consoles, and there are no more quantum leaps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the quantum leap era is over. I mean, that show got canceled.
Yeah. You'll never have that, the first time you heard the water dropping in Link to the Past, or the first time you used the camera control in Mario 64.
It's over.
You know,
I mean, the only VR is our only hope for that.
Right.
In the foreseeable future, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's VR, and then there's going to be there's little things like 4K. You know? That's obviously going to change some stuff.
The question that I have is, when Microsoft started Xbox Live, they made a huge bet on broadband, because back then broadband was not everywhere at all. Most people still had 56K modems. The PlayStation modem thing was a 56K dial-up deal, and Microsoft proved that they made the right bet there. But with these two boxes, is 4K gonna end up being that same kind of thing that is inevitable, or is it going to go the way of 3D television?
Right.
And 4K is going to be this kind of home theater niche that
I think it's totally going to be like that.
You think so?
do too.
Yeah, I think that honestly, the wonderful thing is I'm getting old. I think I'm getting old about as fast as technology is, but I'm at the point where my eyesight will start deteriorating as the fidelity of audio video equipment gets better. So it's do I need 4K? I think I'm cool with 1080p. I think I'm fine. I'll just wipe off my screen. It'll be good.
Max, your internal anti-aliasing just gets better all the
beautiful,
time.
yeah. Oh, look at
there
that.
are no jaggies at all.
Motion blur. It's amazing.
I want to say that people like us in this room and people listening to this show and IGN fans everywhere will be on the
Cutting
board
edge
for something like that. Yeah, totally. But then you look back at Netflix, right? The most popular platform Netflix was on was the Wii, which I don't know if you've ever watched Netflix on the Wii, but it's like watching a movie on a plane. It's just like this really bad little screen, very blurry. Yeah. The interface was terrible, but it, that system reached a lot of people, and most people were just like, I'll just watch it here. Like, I'm watching The Office. I don't care about Steve Carell's face in 4K. You know?
Yeah. I mean, to answer your question, Max, I wonder if Microsoft's got whatever their reason is for Scorpio, presumably to try and retake the power mantle from Sony. But I wonder if Neo is really all about PlayStation VR. Yeah, you can use PlayStation VR on a PS4 with the mystery breakout box that they're selling with it. But I wonder if Neo is just their future path for here's how we're gonna make PSVR a really easy thing for our users.
It's a weird bet though, because you're going to this event in a week, right? And I'm very jealous of you that you get to go to New York City. By the way,
I called dibs, man. By the way, I made the decision. I spoke with Andrew Gold. So every time I get to go to New York, which in our business is sadly not that often.
It's not very often. Yeah,
Rockstar is the only major
Rockstar and Comic-Con are the only two.
Yeah, in New York. So I like to go whenever I get the chance.
Yeah,
and so.
Pizza.
Yeah, it's all. So we haven't. You and I haven't even talked about this because you just got back from vacation.
Yeah.
But, Andrew Goldfarb linked me to. So a lot of people have heard of Grimaldi's. That's like sort of an institution under the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, have you ever been there?
I
No,
have.
but apparently
I liked it quite a bit.
He linked me to a story. Apparently, Grimaldi's isn't Grimaldi's.
They sold the recipe and they opened up a new place next door.
The name and
Yeah.
the original owner opened a shop literally next door called
Yep.
Juliana's.
Yep.
So I've decided that while I'm in New York for the PlayStation meeting, I'm going to Juliana's.
Good
for
call.
dinner.
You
That's-
should walk over the bridge and go down, do that whole thing. It's
So
great.
is that safe at night? Honest question. I don't know the
To
answer.
walk over the Brooklyn Bridge
At night.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anyone's actually been stabbed on the Brooklyn Bridge walking over at night. It's kind of touristy, so it'll be
I have
fine.
confidence. I don't think anyone's been stabbed there. You'll probably be fine.
Yeah.
No one's clearly ever been stabbed
But
there.
long story
ever.
short, you're going there in a week, and PlayStation VR comes out in what, 5 weeks?
Yeah,
Something like that?
Wait, have they set the exact date? It's October what?
I believe it's like I should know this.
They
It's like
have.
the
For
20th or something.
PSVR, there
Yeah.
definitely is a date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it seems like they're showing this. They're going to show Neo, and if the emphasis is that the console is powerful enough to run VR stuff without a breakout box or anything, which we assume it will be, and then a month later, if VR, I'm not going to say it's going to tank, but if it has a sort of a lukewarm launch. That's a long road ahead of them. They're fighting two battles then. They're saying, like, you need to buy PSVR, and that this system's going to make PSVR better, but if you don't care about one, you won't care about the other.
Well, I was gonna say, like, this reminds me a lot of kind of what they were doing. Like, VR is, and 4K, you could argue, is kind of what Blu-ray was when the PS3 showed up. Like, people weren't quite there yet. Like, it was still kind of divided between HD, DVD.
Yeah.
And people just weren't there, you know? Like, people
Blu-ray
were
is the kind of thing that you walked in at Best Buy and you saw it running on a TV and you got it. Blu-ray didn't make 1 out of 3 people throw
No,
up.
I
I mean,
have
but
never
that's what I'm
owned a
saying.
Blu-ray
Those
disc.
stats are
I do
off.
think,
Okay.
by the way, to your guys' point, I think PSVR is going to be a slow burn, and I
Yeah.
think Sony knows it. Any like hardcore PlayStation fan that's expecting a PlayStation 4 2013 like holiday where PSVR sold 5 million units,
Yep.
I don't think that's
No.
going to happen.
I don't think so either.
I don't think it's going to be a slow
Yeah.
burn.
I think, I mean, you're mentioning, Microsoft, betting on broadband. Like, that's a thing that you can understand. Like, that's part of the infrastructure. That's
Yeah.
the direction things are going. I think they kind of backed the wrong horse by having early versions of the Vita in general, but having a 3G model that was like, oh, it sort of works like a cell phone, but like,
Yeah.
who's going to use that,
Right.
Yep. That
and
was
then,
very odd. I mean,
yeah.
that's a really good comparison.
I mean,
'cause
like, jumping on the quantum
Yep.
leap comparison, like, this is interesting because they're like, okay, we're kind of back on top where we were with like the PS2 era. What if we kind of, instead of being like, okay, here's the big new thing, the PS3, everybody go get a second job so you can buy one. Instead, they're kind of like, okay, PS2, in this case PS4, still going strong, but there's another thing. There's a high-end model, which almost makes the smaller one seem more affordable. It's everywhere.
See, I personally don't think, as you're talking about how runaway successful PS4 is, I don't think the Neo is really aimed at people who don't yet have a PS4 at all.
Right.
It's aimed for, they want you to double dip. They
Yes.
want all of you that already own PS4s, you hardcore enthusiastic people, to get excited and buy another one, whether you're trading in or what. But
it's
like,
the Apple thing. It's when you're sitting there with
Yeah.
an iPhone 6 Plus and somebody has the 6 Plus S or whatever, and you're like, well, it's just a little faster.
Yeah.
And I don't need that. Like, I use my wife's phone. She got a phone a year after mine, and it's just faster than mine.
Right.
And I'm like, why do you get a better phone than me? Like, what's up with that? And then we fight, and then it's bad.
Yeah.
No, it's
I
not
mean,
true.
people like having new things.
Yes.
In the end of the
Very
day, like,
true.
video
Yeah.
game consoles are a luxury item. They are not a thing that you need
Yeah.
to do your job. If you're, doing
it
that,
is my
you get
constitutional right to have a Neo.
Yeah.
$599 US.
I mean,
put
you
it in
wanna-
my living
And
room.
if there's tens of millions of PS4s sold out there, and 25% of those people go, yeah, I can upgrade, then that's already a good start. You
Yeah.
couple that with people who haven't bought a PS4 yet that are waiting for the new thing. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really interested to see how it all plays out. Especially, like, we hear those rumors about them kind of going back to the drawing board a little bit on specs once the Xbox stuff was happening.
Is that
possible?
Has there been anything,
I don't
any
buy that.
basis for those, or is that just a sort of a fanboy wish that's
think
gotten
so.
out of control?
Yeah. I
think so.
I honestly don't know. Like, I don't know if there's a credible source for that, because that seems. I mean, it's not unheard of, but it would be a lot, especially if there were dev kits already floating out there.
Yep.
For Sony to go, oh
I feel like it would
6
just
teraflops.
It'd be too
back to
expensive.
the drawing board, boys.
Yep, yep,
That takes a lot for a company to do that.
It's also
Yeah.
that the only reason that we're currently thinking the Scorpio has more teraflops or whatever is because they said that. Like, we don't even know what the Neo is.
Well, there are credible leaks to suggest
but
it's
they're
like
all still
4.2
leaks,
or 4.4
right?
teraflops.
Like, we don't actually know anything.
Not
at this
officially.
No, you'll have like devs offhand being like, "Oh, this is what we're working with." You know.
I mean, what was it? I think it's.
we've
Giant
seen, like,
Bomb.
3 or
They
4.
get the credit. They broke the whole
Yeah.
Neo specs, right? The leak specs. So.
Yeah.
But
And
like,
I
we
think
don't
it's
know
also-
what kind of kits they're talking about. Like, I just
Sure.
feel like it's all really up in the air. Like, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually more interested in if there's tweaks in like tangible stuff, like if the controller is different. If
Well,
you know,
we got a new controller with the Slim, which
Yeah.
showed up. Apparently, the big difference there is that it's got a little tiny light bar on the front, so that you can see if your health is low for those games that do stuff with the light bar.
right? They took the feature that
Dead
people
Space?
did the most to bury
Yeah.
and literally covered in stickers, and they put it front and center. So now you have to
And
look
yeah,
at
and
it.
the light bar is for VR, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the really key little thing there is just having that extra bit of
Yeah.
light there, just so it can kind of keep track if you move your controller around
Yep,
too much.
yep.
I'll tell you, Sony, I will give you $149 for an Elite, a
Yeah.
DualShock Elite with, that's as sturdy and
I
awesome.
want the whole thing to light up.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, the whole thing, just make it light up. I don't even want to. I want it see through.
Do you play games in the dark
I
at
don't
all?
want any. I don't want any opaque parts one bit. I want them all to light up real bright.
Because I think like one of the most annoying things is like
I
playing.
don't have money for lamps, but I like gaming gear. I like
Playing a
lots of
horror
lamps.
game at night in the dark and seeing the reflection of your DS4 on the screen is stupidly annoying. Like it's
I feel like PT did a good job of that.
yeah.
I think the light bar changed.
Yeah.
You know how there's those, I don't actually remember, but I feel like this is the thing. I was very drunk the last time I played it. That when you walk through, you know how there's like the parts where the hallways are like yellow and
Yep.
red, and I'm pretty sure the light bar like slightly changes with
Probably, I mean,
those.
there was something that like in the first half of this generation so far, it was in every game, and then it
Towerfall does a very good job of
and then it stopped really being a thing. But yeah, I don't know. This is also weird to be happening right now because it seems like just a few years ago we were like the new consoles are here. And now we're just kind of reboot them. Like, how's MPD gonna work?
It also
Like,
seems crazy to me that
how do the fanboy wars work? Like, how are you?
How do we argue?
How do we argue? I want to know how I fight with people. How do I
Everything's
yell? Like, how do our people yell at your people, McCaffrey?
it just seems crazy to me that both of these companies had the exact same thought, which because they both had it, I don't know if they copied off of each other or they just got like trader info so that they figured out this was the right path to go. But the fact that we didn't figure out that this was going to happen, it's like they both figured it out and we were never like, you know what? What if they released a new console and it wasn't the PS5?
Right.
Like none of us thought of that.
I think a lot of us and a lot of gamers, a lot of people we talk to about this are still kind of in denial about the whole idea of there not being a sort of segmented once every 7 to 10 years brand new box with a new number on it.
There was a hilarious article on Wired that went up that the Super Nintendo just turned 25 this
Yeah.
week.
Oh.
And Chris Kohler over at Wired wrote this bit about how when the Super Nintendo first showed up, parents thought it was a scam. They weren't just like, oh, God, I got to buy a new one. They were like, Nintendo's a bunch of dicks for doing this. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't get that this is new hardware. Like, we weren't used to...
Same thing happened with the Wii U.
I mean,
I had to explain to
well, no,
several family
At
members that it was
point,
different.
Sure,
Oh, yeah.
sure. I mean, Reggie had to explain that to Jimmy Fallon that it was different.
Yeah.
Like that company was not good at explaining that right out the gate. But when the NES first came out, aside from like, the leap between Ataris that one had a higher number than the other, like the Nintendo was the first console that was really like, oh wow, everyone loves this, is great. And then another one came out and everyone's like, wait a second, and it's
Yeah.
like there was a
Why
very-
do I need another
yeah.
one?
And now we're all like totally used to the idea of like, oh, things become obsolete, like cell phones. You get new ones. That happens. Like,
well,
you
very
have to
specifically,
upgrade.
if you look at the lineage of the DS line, I mean, which is what, like 10 or 11 years old now.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
been
there's
around
been a lot
while.
of those.
You look at like there was the DS, the DS Lite, the DSi, the
3DS,
the DSi XL. Like
and
they
then
made bigger
3DS
versions.
XL, new 3DS,
2DS,
new 3DS,
yeah. Like there was, it's like trying to clock all that, and especially going into stores. I remember there was a sticker I saw in the corner of like one DS game that was like works on 3DS, 2DS. Not the regular DS, and it was just like in the corner was just like you watched yourself getting excited to being like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
And you just
Yeah,
picture
but-
like a mom or a dad walking into a store being like, I want to get this game for my son or daughter, and I don't know where to start.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it was a lot harder when instead of having a bunch of complicated sounding numbers that maybe make it sound more like a computer, we added super at the front.
Yeah.
I mean, they brought out a console that was called the new 3DS, and that was only 2 years ago.
Well, it's not even new anymore, so go figure.
It
I have
has
to say
new in
though,
the name.
I'm all in favor of shorter, upgradey
Me too.
console cycles because, like, I'm a hardcore gamer. I play games almost every single day, and like if I can get something better in 3 or 4 years instead of waiting 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Awesome.
I'm totally with you.
all
And
for it.
I have this debate with people a lot where they're like, well, I'm getting ripped off. And I'm like, well, you're being a hypocrite because you want this like power pushing, genre pushing medium of artistry and technology meeting in unison and creating some of the most amazing things in the world, but you want it running on 6-year-old hardware.
Yeah.
Like it's like
get a PC.
Yeah, it's like being like, oh, this is the best special effects studio in the world, but I'm gonna watch this movie on a plane. Like,
and my other thing that I love about this new way of doing consoles and console hardware is, you talk about Super Nintendo when this N64 came out. You were screwed with regard to Link to the Past,
Right.
Super Metroid. Those all just had to go into the closet unless you wanted to hook your Super NES back up. Like now, if let's say eventually there's going to be a Neo game that's not going to be compatible with PS4.
Right.
It's going to happen. Whether it takes 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, it's eventually that line gets crossed. But still, all my old PS4 games are always going to work now on Neo and on the
Also,
future things. So
digital.
Nice one. Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
That's another thing that's really nice is that the fact that if you've been doing digital or if you've got physical, there's going to be that point where they're like, hey, GameStop's like, hey, you got a trade-in deal.
Oh,
You can get
GameStop will be gone.
Also true.
Okay.
Also true.
it'll be called Funko Stop.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Spencer's Gifts will be like, here's a trade-in deal. If you trade in your PlayStation 4, you get a Nathan Drake Funko Pop and a PlayStation Neo or whatever.
No, day one on my PS4, I downloaded Flower and Flow. And I'm like, I bought these games like 5 years ago on PS3, and they just updated them for free for me, and here they are. And I'm like, oh, I have a library. Like, there's a small, like, growing library of digital purchases, which Nintendo doesn't understand at all. But other consoles do. I mean, Microsoft did the same thing, right? Where they're just
Backwards
like
compatibility, and now
which is
everything
even better.
Everything
awesome.
will go forward
Yeah,
now.
I love that. So I mean, it's
It's like getting a new phone. You still get your music.
and we've talked about this a lot before. I think the biggest hurdle is figuring out how to take my PS4 that I have right now, trade it in towards a new one, and still retain all my purchases and everything. Which I think with everything saved to an account,
totally
it's
possible.
it's
My
totally
thing
possible.
is totally money. Like when we first were kind of finding out about the iterative kind of console releases, I was angry. I think it was like, I'm mad that this is
A
happening.
lot of people were.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now I've accepted it, but the way that I feel about it now is just, it'll be like a phone where, even after I paid off my plan, I usually just keep the phone until it doesn't work anymore. So the idea would be that I would have my PS4 for 4 or 5 years, even if the Neo comes out, because I can't afford to buy one. So it's like, I'll just keep my PS4 until it gets to the point where I have to upgrade. And then maybe by that point, there'll be a Neo 3 or a Neo 4, and they'll keep doing it. So it'll just be like a cycle where you
if you can-
whenever you need to, you upgrade.
By the way, if you can skip a generation, that's awesome.
I'm definitely not gonna get the
first.
Neo or
Yeah,
the
the first Neo. I mean, for all we know, it's going to be like, hey, a few games run better, and they've got gizmo things, and you don't have to have a special breakout box for
Right.
your PlayStation VR. But there's also going to be like, that's going to be like, it's not even a launch lineup. It's just like a few games that have bells and whistles, and obviously the VR library isn't going to be huge out the gate. There's going to be a bunch of stuff, but we don't know what the long-term plan is there. Who's not to say that a year and a half after that, there's like, hey, here's the Neo 0.25 whatever that comes with a VR headset, and there's a price break, and it's the VR headset too. Like, it's going to
Right.
be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bright side of iterative stuff, is that it doesn't have to be this grand kind of spectacle every time they want to change
it's
one
like
little thing.
Ryan was saying before, how I also totally agree that PSVR is going to be something that's a slow burn. I think that maybe these new consoles will as well. They're
I
not going
totally
to
agree.
sell
Yeah.
like PS4 and Xbox One.
And I'll tell you, if with this intent, with the Neo intending to live alongside the PS4 as the premium version, so let's just say it's going to be $4.99.
It's like Amazon Prime, right?
Why doesn't Sony or Microsoft on their side, for that matter, offer like an old school cell phone subsidy plan where we'll give you the console for $199 if you lock in your PSN subscription for 3 years.
I
And then
actually
they can
love
make
that.
Then it's it feels cheaper.
Yeah.
But ultimately the company's going to make a little bit more money.
I totally love
and
that.
you could,
If you're going
Am I
after the
nuts?
phone model, then do it like that, you know?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had actually a rapid fire question from Tony B, who said, "Do you guys think that the price increase for PS Plus may be actually a clever way to subsidize the cost of Neo?" I mean, maybe on some
Possibly.
granular, massive level, but I feel like not really. But
Microsoft's been charging $60 for a while for Live, and I think
Yeah.
Sony's just like, well, everyone loves us, and we're the #1 guy now, so we can totally just get away with
Yeah.
charging $60.
Yeah, it's easy money.
one guy got mad at me on Twitter for being condescending
Just
and
one?
snarky. Yeah, surprisingly.
That's okay.
Anyway, before we move on too much on the subject of backwards compatibility and adaptability and all that, PlayStation Now is out on PC today, so you can play a bunch of PS3 games from your laptop. More than 300, including Ni no Kuni. Play Ni no Kuni.
That was my note. Please
I
play
agree.
Nino
Yeah.
Kuni.
Have you guys
It's
messed with
pretty
PlayStation Now at all?
No.
I have
It's
not.
like stupidly fast.
Really?
It's,
Yeah?
it's like I played what was it? Shadow of the Colossus, and I was like, I want to play Shadow of the Colossus, and I clicked the button, and it was just on my nav bar, and then I hit start, and I started playing it. I was like, where is this game? Like, how is this working? It was really cool.
So, does it stream it? Does it download it?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, it's all cloud-based.
Yeah, it's all cloud-based.
It's Skykai, right?
So yeah, so
Can you use like an Xbox 360 controller?
on
asking that
PC, I don't know. I'm sure on
as
PC.
like, you know, it's
Yeah,
easier to
why not?
connect
Give
to
it a
Microsoft
Wii U,
controller
yeah.
than.
I will say the weirdest thing is that the controls were kind of finicky. I tried playing Resident Evil 4 because I love that game. We'll talk about that later. It's out on PS4 today. But I tried playing the HD version that got ported to PS3 and Xbox 360 5 years ago. Through PlayStation Now, downloaded it instantly, started playing it, and immediately I was like, these controls are really
Input
weird.
lag from the
Well,
cloud.
not so much input
What were you
lag,
playing
although
it with?
A DualShock 4.
Okay.
So, but that game was made for a PS3 controller, so you
Yeah.
have some weird things. It's sort of like when you play a game on Vita that was a PS1 game, and you're using like a back touch for like, it's just like
Yeah.
finicky little things.
Odd.
So if there was I don't know if there, I haven't
back
gotten.
touch is what my wife and I do
Could
on the
you
weekend.
could you use a PS3
It's a massage!
controller with a PC?
What's that?
Could you use a PS3
You can use a PS4 controller with PC as
No, you
of
can with
like
PS4, Xbox
yeah.
360, and Xbox One. Could you with PS3?
PS3 with like
I feel like I tried and it was
weird
with
real
weird
strange.
drivers. You can
Yeah.
do it wired. You can't do it wireless though.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So on that note, the PlayStation Neo ? Event is September 7th.
Mm-hmm.
That is at 12 p.m. Pacific time. Ryan, you're going to be there.
Yeah,
You're gonna
they're not going to sit us all in a theater and go, well, we're up to 50 million PlayStation 4s sold. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming.
So,
So yeah, we're gonna actually.
if they do, go get pizza because you're
yeah. Okay,
make,
bye.
make the best of it.
Thanks, IGN, for flying me out
And
here
to be
for
fair,
this.
them not acknowledging the Slim is just so frustrating.
Well,
That they haven't
It's
done that
just-
yet.
No.
Yeah.
it's
Sorry, Max. They just haven't addressed it at all, and it's like
Okay,
this. You just
well-
look dumb.
I think
Yeah,
they did the
it's-
same thing with the like Vita Slim, or was it the PS3 Slim a couple years ago, where they started off an E3 press conference being like, "Well, you all know about this by now, so here it is." Like they've
Yeah.
been scooped on their own surprises so many times
Yeah.
now that
Yeah, I think it's
Like,
also.
let's just wait it out. We're
there-
having this fancy
There are
event.
probably
Yeah.
plenty of mainstream outlets that cover official stuff straight from the horse's mouth, and they're not going to track stuff that's kind of showing up on the,
Yeah,
deeper,
that's also
deeper
true.
into the internet.
Yeah.
There's people who just don't keep track of stuff unless it's officially official.
Yeah, I mean, like for instance, they're just the mass market is the audience for the Slim, and I doubt. Correct me if I'm wrong. The New York Times and USA Today probably haven't reported on the Slim that showed
Yeah.
up on eBay.
Exactly.
IGN has,
Yeah.
Kotaku has, Polygon has.
That's true.
Yep.
There's
Yeah.
like leaked Star Wars figures from Rogue One out there, and Hasbro has not officially acknowledged those.
So people
you know.
just don't find out.
Yeah, exactly.
I get that.
Anyway, so yeah, like we said, we're gonna have a pre and post show before Sony's live event. We'll probably have a sort of a stuffy, what do we think we're gonna see for the pre-show, and then the post show is gonna be us just goofing around. So
Yeah, it'll basically be another Beyond.
Yeah.
It's the Beyond crew, so yeah, tune in for that. It'll be
I
cool.
always thought of us more of a squad than a crew.
Beyond
yeah.
Squad.
Yeah,
Beyond
that
crew.
doesn't have a good ring though. Yeah. Anyway,
Beyond Battalion.
Brian, you went
that's
to
good.
Pretty good.
I like
the
that.
battalion. Brian, you went to Gamescom.
I did. Yeah.
What's the coolest thing you did there?
Star Wars VR.
Talk about
hands
it.
down.
Haven't tried it yet. Please
Oh,
tell
it
me
was
about it.
Battlefront
So
VR.
yeah, Battlefront VR. So Battlefront VR is free if
you think it was
own-
a Topps card
Well, no,
collecting game?
the other that
Wow, these
that
cards are
demo,
so- I'd be into that.
The demo thing that was at GDC that was still Star Wars, but it wasn't Battlefront.
Oh yeah.
which
So
was
this
like
is
cool, but not that cool.
This is straight up Battlefront. It's being worked on by Criterion.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's not straight up just the DICE guys who did all the other stuff. They're still doing all the DLC. I got to try the new Death Star
So
DLC.
it's not Burnout Paradise, it's Burnout paired with dice.
Oh, that was really quick.
that's so good.
really
That's so
quick.
good.
God, that's so bad.
You just can't deal with them.
By the way, you
You're
remember two E3s ago, maybe even three, that when EA had that really weird E3 press conference where they showed a bunch of like dev diary things of games, including the Criterion game where it was like GoPro the game. It was like dirt bikes with everything in first person.
There wasn't a game there. They were just like, yeah, we got some GoPros. We watched a lot of YouTube videos, and it was like, you guys haven't been working, have you?
It didn't have a name, and clearly now they went, that's canceled. You guys work on Battlefront VR.
Yeah.
Totally. And I think it's like the way this came together is really cool because they didn't have to build, like this is using assets from Battlefront, I believe. And if I'm screwing this up, my apologies to all the people working on it, especially John Stanley, who's a Beyond fan, who was working the booth at Gamescom. Very weird to do something I'm very excited for and have the guy working on it being like, I love your show. I'm like, what? That's insane. So I think that it looks like they use a lot of the assets from Battlefront, and
Which are basically the assets from Star Wars.
Which are high res model scans from Lucas. So that's just perfect. So the demo is very short. I think that I was very excited on it. Goldfarb and I did an interview afterwards. We were basically just like, "Hey, can you make this? Can you make this? Can you make this?" And they're like, "Well, we're just focusing on this
Shut
for
up,
now."
boys. Shut up.
Can you shut up? Yeah, because I want everything now because it just works so well. So basically, it starts off like this. You sit down. You use a DualShock 4, no move controller nonsense, which actually feels really nice because when you're sitting in a cockpit of an X-wing, like your hands are on the thing like that and not in two different places like that waggling around.
Yeah, unless you're Jack Porkins.
Yeah, well, he's got his own problems.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Obesity was one of them. Eating. So it starts you off on the sort of Battlefront title screen where the AT-AT walks by, and I'm like, oh, I've seen this a million times. And then they're like, look up, and I was like, oh God, it's his belly. There it is. It's like, that's so cool. And I've seen that like white background with the Imperial Walker go by a million times, just waiting for that.
Did you turn around?
Yes, I don't know if you
was there Gonk Droid just walking around back there.
No, I don't know if you could turn around in that part.
Okay.
You probably could. You
should be able to.
Yeah, because they wanted you to do that for everything, and I was playing kind of cautiously. So now you're not really walking around or anything like that. This is a very sort of like hyper focused experience. So they drop you in this like kind of. It's kind of like a hangar, but it's all white, and you see your X-Wing sitting there, and you see a ladder next to it, and you see some crates on the side, and there's little like Rebel logos spinning, and you can point and look at one and click, and then zoom to it, and then get a different angle on your ship. So the coolest one I got, like they kind of bring you around the cockpit a little bit to kind of be like, well, here's what it looks like. Here's your X-Wing. This is your ship, and they pull me up right to the side, and then I'm sitting in my X-Wing.
So it's like when you rent a car, and they're like they walk around. They're like, you got a scratch here. This was there. We're gonna.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I'm now level with the cockpit of my X-Wing, looking at it, and they're like, look in, and I was like, what? They're like, just lean over and look in, and I'm like, all right. I kind of just like picked my head up and looked down. I'm like, oh my God, I'm looking into my X-Wing. So I click a button and I get in it, and they're like, turn around, and my little R2 droid sitting behind me, and he's chirping. And then I click a button, and I look to my left and right, and I'm watching my foils open and close. And I was just sitting there for like 3 minutes, just like looking around, opening and closing the wings, just hitting different buttons inside the cockpit to send off different lights and stuff like that. And you click accept for the mission. It kind of like lifts you up a little bit. You start feeling that sort of weightlessness of, I don't know if you've ever done any sort of like VR stuff where you're like floating in space, and I've played 50 hours of Battlefront. And I've done a lot of the dogfighting stuff in first person, but for the first time ever, I was like I kind of feel like I'm sitting in space right now. Like I'm just sitting in a chair, but I think it's because I'm like being in an X-Wing is this very, very enclosed space.
Yeah.
But then you look out, it's not like being in a Millennium Falcon or something where you're like, this is big ship. You're just in this little box, and looking left and right is just infinite space.
That's cool.
So it feels right. And I don't know if that's going to be the same for like a racing game or a driving game.
Have
or
you played Eve Valkyrie? On
Yes.
Yeah. So it's that sort, like that game pulls it off really well.
So
too.
it does that, but like with a license that I've cared about since I was 5 years old.
You don't care about EVE Online and the Goon Swarm?
So what's the actual game part?
So the actual game part, and this is where it really started surprising me, was you get up into space, you look to your left and right, you see your squad mates, and you zip into hyperspace, which just looks awesome. And then you get there, and there's a wave of TIE fighters, and I'm like, oh, this is just going to be like point and shoot. And no, there's full on like 360 dogfighting. Like you're like flipping
So
around,
there is
floating.
space combat in that game. You just have to buy a $500 hat to do it.
Yes. Well, there's also space combat in the Death Star DLC, which I played. Actually, but you just go through this kind of score-based thing. I think I shot down like 23 TIE fighters, and Goldfarb got like 21 or 19. I beat him, and then it was just like thanks, and then you're done. Or I think you like land or whatever, and then that's pretty much it. And it's not a lot. But what's there is awesome, and it's free, and it's a sort of a good like. Here's your first baby steps into Star Wars VR.
That was my next question: is that it? And because for free, that's totally fine. Like if it's just a value add, basically, it's like a bonus.
PlayStation VR is a tapas restaurant right now. It is 100 tiny little plates that are all delicious. None of them are a main course.
Right. That's like probably seriously my favorite thing from E3 this year was Batman Arkham VR.
Yeah.
And apparently it's like 90 minutes.
Yep.
And it's it's going to cost money, but I guess what is it? It's 20 or 30. It's not a $60 thing, but I'm okay with that. If the price is right, I'm fine with it just being a shorter bite-sized thing.
And it's like this is one of those things. And I put a video up on IGN like immediately after we ran back to the war room at Gamescom and was like, turn a camera on right now. I'm freaking out about this. Like this is really cool.
That's so cool.
And I've been very openly on the show on and off with my excitement about PSVR. I pre-ordered one, and then I canceled the pre-order, and then pre-ordered again, and I'm like, do I really want this thing? Like, do I really need it? Do I need this like isolated gaming experience? And I think for something like this, to pop into this for 5 minutes, like I'm just having a crappy day, and I'm like, I'm gonna score attack some TIE fighters real quick in my X-wing.
Yeah.
I think it's great, and this will be a fun toy to show your friends, like have people over.
I think that's the biggest thing is it still is a collection of experiences.
Yes.
But I don't really think that's a bad thing.
It's
People
not.
are like, what's the selling game? And it's like, well, maybe it's not. It's a bunch of small things.
I think Sony's playing it really smart with PlayStation VR in that it's going to take time for there to be a killer app, if there ever even is one, because honestly, what was the last killer app? Wii Sports. And before that, Halo 1. Like, killer apps are kind of...
Clearly you haven't heard of a little game called Knack.
My bad, dog.
There's a couple 100 million PlayStation 4s that like a word with you.
So McCaffrey, I think the thing that unifies the games you just mentioned is that they brought a lot of people together in the same room. Or at least over the same experience. Like Halo 1, at least like LAN parties and stuff like that. People connecting consoles. Like Wii Sports was the party game for like a year or two. And
PSVR does have that with Playroom.
It has some stuff like that. But I think for the most part, it's like you're on your own.
Yeah.
Like,
I guess to finish, my point was that since there isn't and may not be a killer app for PlayStation VR, I think Sony's playing it really smart by just having like, okay, well, we can float $1 million, relatively low amount of money to Rocksteady, a premier developer, and have them just make us a little Batman thing.
Exactly.
And we can float a little bit of money,
maybe Uncharted,
to DICE, and have them do a little Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like a lot of these neat little things that taken together, you're like, I think I'm going to get a PlayStation VR. There's all these cool things for
and that's
it.
the cool thing. Like Tomb Raider's coming
Death
out
by
on
1,000 cuts, except it's awesome and not death.
that Tomb Raider like
All
definitive
cuts.
edition thing's coming to. I mean, all the content's coming to Xbox, and it's the whole thing's coming to PS4 for the first time ever. And I believe that VR thing, that sort of like
is
gone
only
home
for
thing,
PlayStation, and
is
I guess PC too.
Yeah, but I believe it's free in that box.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
So that means that if I have that, and I have Battlefront already, along with 10 million other people who bought that game, you have those already.
Yeah.
So that basically means that when PSVR comes out, I'm like, oh, I already have
You
2 or
already
3
have
VR
stuff.
games.
Right.
That's a good incentive
Smart.
to sign up.
I've straight up gone through my Blu-ray collection and looked for stuff that is like, oh, there's the 3D version on here too, before going down to like my dad's house because he's got one of those like 3D projectors.
Yeah.
And I've like looked through, like I think I got my hands on a PlayStation Move controller and I was like, oh, do I have anything that runs on Move? And I'm like, going through my collection. Like that's totally the kind of thing.
Maybe that will be it. It'll be like one person in a friend group has PSVR, and they're like, oh, well, I have Tomb Raider Definitive Edition. I'm going to bring that to your house, and then everyone sees it in action, and then everyone just like trickles out and buys their own.
Right.
By the way, Tomb Raider real damn good.
yeah.
I voted for it for IGN's overall game of the year last year. I
was
it's that
saying-
good. You PS4 owners are in for a treat.
I
if you
think
haven't
I think
played
it lost by like 1 or 2 votes last
It
year.
was very close.
Yeah,
Just
so,
really excited
yeah,
to play
I ranted and raved about this game on this show, and people were like, "It's an Xbox game," and I was like, "No, it's
a
coming to
game.
PS4. Just you wait.
don't
You're
know
gonna
when."
love this." And I'm really excited for people to play that game in a post Uncharted 4 universe because I think it's totally strong enough to stand on its own. I think they are very, very different experiences. I mean, there's similarities there, but yeah, super excited for people to play that.
So, in terms of the Sony event coming up, I keep feeling like we're going to get one of those. I guess we kind of did at E3 already. One of those things where it's like, hey, here's a sizzle reel of all of the weird little VR things using games you already know.
Yeah.
It's great that there's 100-foot robot golf and somebody's in the kitchen doing stuff or whatever the VR
kitchen.
game is.
It's a great game title.
I guess
love
just
that
the
title.
kitchen.
The kitchen.
Someone's
Yeah.
in the kitchen doing
Yeah,
stuff.
and there's Get a Job 2016 or whatever. But
job.
yeah, I think that if they're like, hey, so here's camera mode in Uncharted 4, but it's VR compatible,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
here's we already know about Battlefront and Tomb Raider, but what if they're like, hey, GTA 5, you can.
Oh, man,
or that,
something for
that
GTA
Witcher
5
thing
would
where
be
you
so
throw your
cool.
throw a falcon up and take
Yeah.
look around. I just think that like little things where you're like, here's a game you already have. If you buy our expensive hat, you can now wear that hat
Game
in that
gets
game.
cooler.
Yeah.
Also, here's a question: Minecraft just came to Windows 8 in beta last week.
Windows
for-
10?
Yes, Windows 10. Sorry, for Oculus. Do you reckon Minecraft will make it to PSVR?
I hope so. I don't know how much of a dent that game made on PlayStation in general. I know I played a ton
It's
of it
still
there.
in the top 10 selling games
And
every
just
single
overall.
month.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Microsoft's been really not stupid about cutting off revenue streams for that thing they spent $2 billion
Yeah.
on.
Right,
Cool.
so that's
Yeah.
like, I feel like if Microsoft ends up having VR, maybe holding Minecraft to that would be something they
No,
might do.
they haven't done it
done it with
held-
anything else, though.
They haven't done it. They've kept Minecraft just totally platform agnostic, which is great.
I think it's like it's a good sort of this kind of like here's a teaser appetizer thing in PSVR of what our game can do is a good sort of like stopgap between developing a brand new piece of software for PSVR and sort of just being like, well, we've patched it in like the Witcher thing, like you said, like Eagle mode or whatever the hell you want. Like just take something like that and just throw it in there. Even Final Fantasy 15 has that weird
Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah.
photo mode thing that
Yeah, go
doesn't
on a road trip and stare at a woman or whatever.
It doesn't look great,
yeah.
but it's a thing and it's a thing you can try.
Speaking of things that don't look great,
you sent me the worst thing today,
Yeah,
Max.
sorry.
This was a
I
bad
didn't know
video.
what that segue was going to be.
This is getting people real hot and bothered in a number of different ways. DOA Extreme Pearl Neptune or whatever the hell the newest one is called. Instead of the
Necklace.
number 3. I think it was like Neptune on View.
necklace.
Yeah, they put up the PSVR version footage or the kind of PSVR like the little app bit that comes with it.
It's unlisted, though.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Got
Big.
300,000
how I
views.
find these videos.
Well, it's
okay?
like people can't just search for it because
Okay.
it's an unlisted
They're finding
link.
it.
Well, like, yeah.
Those weird dudes.
I guess if it's embedded.
Yeah, if you upload it, they will come.
Stop
Phrasing.
that. Stop that.
Yeah, but basically, the pro, the man who's demoing the game, he's got a great Hawaiian shirt, and then the main con
He
is that
looks
it's
like if you and he were twins in the Arnold Schwarzenegger Danny DeVito sense.
Yes.
He's the Danny DeVito, and you're
Yeah.
the
I
I
Arnold.
felt sort of weird watching a video of a man wearing a shirt like my shirt, but he's doing weird, sexy stuff.
super pervy
Sure
thing.
is.
Max,
the big
you're
con-
like in the 1% of people that wear that shirt and aren't just a total damn weirdo about it.
Yeah.
Like that's just
I don't know.
Also
That's
true.
that's a weird dress code
So
for
yeah,
most
on
other
that
people.
note, this game is really pretty basically just like a sexual assault simulator.
It's a booby viewer,
It's
basically.
a booby. No. It's not just a booby viewer. The thing is, you've got.
There's
your
other body
controller.
parts, too.
There's,
You literally poke.
it's called an ass looker. All right, it's different.
My favorite part is there's just this woman in a bikini standing on a beach, and you just prod her.
Yeah.
And she reacts.
Yeah,
She
you've got
does.
this,
She
like, you're
reacts like she
poking
doesn't like
boobs
it.
and butts
Oh
and-
yeah, the boob
Yeah.
physics were incredible. My favorite part is watching this guy who's using it. He just like kind of awkwardly just puts his face in her boobs to see if it'll move.
Really?
So he just like sort of It's like you just stick
So,
your face
I mean, I don't want to get too
So,
detailed,
yeah,
but
yeah.
is this like, does it seem remotely real? Because I feel like the people making this game is
So,
just like
the
Steve
boot physics are
Carell
very impressive.
in
So,
40-Year-Old Virgin
yeah.
when he's like, oh, it's like holding a sandbag.
So here's the thing: is you've got your controllers. I think it's move
the
support.
thing you wanna know about?
You take the.
I feel like the people making that game
What
have
is
never
a
seen a
real
woman
woman?
naked.
Okay. Yeah,
well,
maybe.
they've seen them in
looks pretty good.
bikinis. That's probably why they don't make them nude. They're just like, we don't know
true.
what's under there. Who knows? It's a mystery. It's mysterious things down there. But you've got this weird floating thing that looks like. Is his name Zach? That guy from DOA who like owns the Sexy Island or whatever, and he's got sunglasses. He looks like Dennis Rodman in Double Team.
Oh,
That-
yeah,
you are
yeah.
that guy?
Good memory, by
Okay.
the way.
Yeah.
Anyway, it looks like him crossed with like a, I don't know, like a little silver weeble, like some kind of backup dancer from Space Channel 5. It's like this weird egg-shaped space rocket thing,
Yep.
and you're basically waving that around. If you look carefully, this egg-shaped thing has wraparound sunglasses on it, and you're just like prodding a woman in the boobs with it.
That's
Or
awful.
elsewhere.
Yeah,
Right,
it's just
or
a whole
wherever.
bunch of bad
Now,
garbage
It's
in a
where-
row.
where-
very,
gets-
very strange.
Where it gets very bad is that the woman apparently in Japanese is basically being like, "Hey, quit it! Hey, stop that! Come
but
on!
there's nothing else
Don't
for you
do
to
that."
do.
Yeah. So
Like,
that's the whole
that's
thing.
it.
Serious point on this. There's no way this comes out in America,
No.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's
No.
just
No.
it would not be.
I don't think
it would be a firestorm of
Did-
controversy
Did
here.
DOA come out here stateside?
Well, I mean, it did years ago on Xbox, but you're
the-
talking about the
newest
new one.
I don't think it did.
I think
it was-
you're right. I don't believe it did.
I think it might have come out in Europe, but we
So,
got an import
I
copy
mean,
of
it's
it.
this is a weird segue into this conversation, but like, welcome to a closed VR platform. Like, this is what's going to happen with PSVR. Like, it's not going to happen with something like Oculus.
Well, because Sony can
Browser
reject.
support.
Oh, well, I
Yeah.
don't know what that means.
Yeah,
Sony can reject any game they want,
Yeah.
just like a console, just like PS4 now. So
Yeah.
they've allowed this,
Yeah.
at least for the Japanese
I mean,
market.
Yeah. Again,
it makes a
still-
lot more sense in Japan than it does here.
We
I
just
think.
talked about PlayStation Now on PC. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if they were like, "Hey, guess what? The PlayStation VR headset works with your computer too." I mean, it's.
I don't know. That's such a slippery slope.
I don't see that happening.
That's just like a Fox News headline, like waiting to happen.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but that doesn't mean anything, you know.
Yeah, it does. I
I
think
saw a
they're
Fox
careful.
News headline about a guy who punched a
it
bear
could.
to save his dog. It was great.
Well, that was a real story.
Yeah. I don't know.
slow
Parents
news
are
over there.
outraged at the Super Nintendo ripping off children everywhere.
I think they're probably trying to avoid another hot coffee scenario.
Yeah.
We'll
Well,
see.
I mean,
I honestly think they're going to be
that's-
very careful about who they let.
Yeah, I don't think that. I mean, it could be one of those like warranty voiding type things, or they're just. I mean, if you use a PlayStation 4 controller to play like some nasty thing like Rape Play or that game where you kill
Did you
schools
just say
or whatever.
rape play?
Yeah, that's a game.
That's a game?
That's a very very banned game on Twitch.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a gross game. Anyway, if
I
you
don't know what it is,
if
but I
you
just assume by the name.
I don't know the one where you take baths with a man or whatever that other one is. That's also banned from Twitch. If you
Oh,
use
Get a Job 2016.
yeah. They don't get a special job. But yeah,
Give a job
if you use
2016.
a PlayStation 4 controller to play a game that is on PC that would never in a million years come to consoles,
Yeah.
that doesn't like.
Doesn't count.
Yeah,
Doesn't
so
count.
I don't see why.
That's on Gabe Newell and the rest of those boys.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that if they're just like, if you're plugging this thing into a computer and doing whatever you do on your computer with it.
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah.
like, you won't be able to turn on your PS4 Neo Slim XP Plus HD2 and put on the VR helmet and just download this game from the store.
No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Anyway, yeah, DOA Extreme, police station volleyball or whatever.
What's our new?
just
What's
plug a
our,
woman in
so?
the
Why is this story in here? So
I
we
don't
can
know,
just be like,
it's fascinating.
that's a thing.
That's exactly why.
I was shocked when I clicked the link and when you sent it. I was genuinely surprised that like this actually got made.
Well, I kind of thought.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
how did this get made, and how did somebody say yes to this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching it, I thought that it was just like a part of the game. Like maybe you would poke a woman in the butt and in the boobs, and then like you would fight or something. But it was
No.
like, no, that's it.
No, it's not
Yeah.
a fighting game. It's a game about being at the beach with women.
Yep.
It's a real weird game.
Yep.
I don't know. They got like camera mode in there. I think it's like if you read the comments on that video, there's like a ton of
Why
people
would you
who are
ever
like,
do that?
I don't know. Because I'm a dumb man in a Hawaiian shirt. A lot of people are just like, PlayStation VR is saved. Sony has saved gaming forever, and you're just like, all right, whatever. It's a thing. I just think it's very weird and silly and also awful. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be cool to see like that kind of stuff. Like, hey, great news, everybody. I don't know. disgusting games that you wouldn't think should have VR functionality. They might come out of the woodwork and be like, guess what? You can play this game now. On another completely unrelated note, PlayStation 4 is on, Resident Evil 4 is on PS4 today.
Yes.
Brian, this is one of your favorite games ever. You've talked about this a ton.
Yeah, this Resident Evil 4 is it's such a triumph. I feel like it was like a next gen game, a generation before that gen even happened. Did you play Resident Evil 4 when it first came out?
Not 4.
Not 4?
Yeah.
Did anyone else play Resident Evil 4 when it first came out?
yeah.
Okay. So Resident Evil 4.
I didn't play when it first came out.
Okay. All of you are dead to me. No, it's a really, really great game. And I think I love it because it took the Resident Evil franchise, which was very sort of botched and stale by that point, and it did something completely new with it. It's one of those sort of what Ocarina of Time did for Zelda. This did for Resident Evil. And a lot of people aren't...
Except Zelda wasn't kind of on life support before that.
Totally, yeah.
I mean, I love RE1, but...
Me too.
Yeah, 2
Me
and
too.
3.
To me, it's like I always say Resident Evil 4 is my favorite Resident Evil game. And I mean that in no disrespect to Resident Evil Remake, which is just a fantastic remake of a classic. But I think 4 has aged better.
Yeah.
And
those tank controls.
Yeah, those tank controls are weird. And 4, it's not like straight up like playing a third-person shooter in 2016. It's very finicky because the game is like 10 years old now. But it was originally on GameCube and PS2, and then they ported it to Wii, and then they ported it to the Xbox 360 and the PC and the PS3 and the iPhone. And I have played every version of it. And now it's on PS4 in HD. I believe it's a port of the PC version. And it's really fun. It's really cool. It set Resident Evil down a weird path because then it went into Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6, which
Basically
I believe...
changed genres, pretty much.
It got way too Call of Duty, and I think got worse and worse. So a lot of like hardcore classic Resident Evil fans don't like...
And now
what
it's Silent
4
Hill.
did. Now it's Silent Hill? Yeah, I don't even know where it is
Doing
now.
some weird stuff.
Yeah, it's all over the place. But if you want to check that game, that franchise, when it took a weird left and did something very new and very different, go check that out. One thing I did notice about it, though, by the way, is that it doesn't have a platinum trophy. For me, I don't care because neither did Super Metroid when I was growing up. And I play games because I like to play games and not because...
You play games because you didn't get trophies doing other stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Sports?
Yeah.
Are we talking
There you
sports?
go, yeah.
I didn't get anything in sports.
You got like an orange slice and a pat on the back and a good game from some
At the
kid in the
pie
town over. Yeah.
Capcom, by the way, continuing to monetize the crap out of their back catalog with very little creativity in they're not really making a lot of new things.
Yeah.
Which really makes me sad because last generation Capcom was awesome.
Yeah.
Dead Rising.
Well, they also
and
did some evil
RE5
stuff there too,
and
though. Overcharged for
Lost
stuff
Planet.
and re-released the same game 2 years in a row. And
I'm with you in that
NBC
Capcom
Ultimate.
released a statement recently saying that they're one of their primary focuses now is HD remakes and remaking their classic games.
At least they weren't shy about it.
Right. So I feel like if you're gonna do that, go all in. Like
they're just charging too much for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind paying $20 for a game like Resident Evil 4.
Well,
Okay.
sure.
Anyway, you went in the group and you asked, "Did trophies make or break a game for you?" And we got some interesting answers.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask you, McCaffrey. Like, you guys talk about achievements a lot on your show, right?
And actually, we're
Not really?
Not really.
Yeah.
We
Is that something that you were really into?
very much in the early 360 days?
And
There was
what made you sort of like walk away from it?
time?
Yeah.
Just time.
Okay, I
Is
still
that
really
it?
care about achievements. I stayed up until 1 a.m. last night.
I saw your tweet. I
evening
was
out my
going
gamer
to ask
score.
you about this. Your
But
tweet yesterday.
So I had a 360 before I had a PS3.
Yeah.
Which is like my PS3 was my first ever like retail purchase. I saved up for it with my crappy job at EB Games, and that was like the first expensive thing that I ever bought with a paycheck. And
Give
by that
the money
point-
right back to them.
pretty much by that point I had kind of realized that if I can not care about trophies, that would be excellent, because if I can just stick that to one console, it's way better. Because if
Yeah.
I cared about them on both, it would be like they can just sink a lot of time into that kind of stuff.
So I noticed a couple people in the Podcast Beyond Facebook group, which you should join because it's a great place.
That's facebook.com/group/podcastbeyond.
Attaboy. We're saying that they weren't going to check out Resident Evil 4 because it doesn't have a platinum trophy. And I understand that on some levels. On other levels, it kind of bums me out because I feel like you should be playing good games because they're good games. But I know for some people, if they've played the same game multiple times, this is a good incentive to go back and play it again.
Yeah.
I got the platinum trophy in Far Cry Primal this year, which I never go for stuff like that. But I was just like, hey, I'm here, and I'm like 90% there already, so I might as well just finish the job.
Yeah.
So I asked people in the group what they thought about this and if it's a make or break thing for them. We got some interesting responses. So John Murray says, it won't stop me from playing a game, but it may stop me from repeat playthroughs. Doesn't seem worth it if there isn't a plat. Unless the game is amazing, then I don't care. I totally get that, because like with unlockables kind of being less of a thing these days, cheat codes not really being a thing, replaying a game multiple times isn't something you really want to do a lot, especially because there's more games than ever now.
Yeah,
So,
that's probably my biggest thing about trophies and achievements, and why I don't ever try and get 100% is because it's like, I feel like I would prefer to spend that time playing another game
right.
than I would to get 100% on something.
Yeah, so Timothy Ralph Weisenhunt says, it 100% will keep me from playing an older game. I really want to buy Final Fantasy, what was it, 4 collection on Vita. I hate Roman numerals.
Yeah,
but
it's
don't
a
want to
Final
spend
Fantasy Intravenous collection.
But don't want to spend the money to buy it if I'm not earning trophies for the probable 100 hours I'd invest in the product. Classic games are a different story. If it is around Super NES age or more, then I don't expect it. See, I'm actually kind of different, because like I would take a Super Nintendo game with a platinum trophy in a heartbeat, because I played that game 15 times already.
Yeah.
So having a new incentive to play it in a weird, different way, like there's like videos of people beating Legend of Zelda without using a sword, or getting up to Ganon at least, and I'm like, oh, that's a cool trophy right there. Jessica Bowen says, I find it hard to play games with no trophy support. Not that it happens much anymore, but have no problem playing a game with no platinum.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think it's if something has easy trophies, then, because again, I try not to look at trophies ever. I'm looking at this from an achievements perspective. It's still the same as like if it's easy, it's like, well, maybe I'll play this, which I normally wouldn't play, but I don't care about the 100%. Like it's like if I can get, however many bronze trophies.
That's how I feel
maybe,
completely. Like
yeah.
if you're there and it's working for you,
Yeah.
sure. But when all of a
adds
sudden
a
you
little-
look up and you're like, and I did that with Battlefront. Like I put 50 hours into that game and I looked up and I'm like, I'm nowhere near the platinum here.
Yeah.
Like they want so much out of me.
I kind of hate that.
Yeah.
I'll periodically, like, if there's no other game I want to be playing and I'm just kind of messing around in some game and I'm just like, I wonder what I could be doing, like that, give myself some kind of small goal here.
Overwatch
and I'll, like,
is perfect for that because each character has 2 or some have 3, but it's like it makes you play with those characters in different ways to try and get the trophies,
Yeah.
which they're all really interesting as well.
Right.
It like totally adds to that game. If you're trying to play with different
I jumped back
characters.
into Metal Gear Solid this weekend, and since then they've updated it, so now you've got 200 new notifications at all times on your iDroids. So you just open that up, and it's like bleep, 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 and you're like, what? What am I doing? It's like, congratulations, you jumped in a box. You get an award of some plants. I'm
Yep.
like, what am I doing? So
Thank you.
having some kind of like, oh, here's a new challenge goal. It's like catch 15 gerbils in one go, or whatever the hell that game is about.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah,
I'm
like,
into that.
I mean, with less gamified games, I think that like checking the list of trophies and being like, oh, I have that. The Lego games are fantastic for that. Where it'll be like
totally.
it'll be like turn into the Hulk in Lego Marvel Superheroes.
That was
like
a Beyond
15 times.
achievement in
Yeah.
Lego Avengers.
Yeah.
They were literally named after this podcast,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is the coolest thing ever.
Yep.
I noticed that in Lego Force Awakens, they were like, there was one where if you paired up Chewbacca and Han Solo in the Millennium Falcon, they gave you a trophy. And I'm like, that's smart. It's not just like beat this level fast or beat this level without dying. It's like,
Hey, this is cute.
yeah, pair some
Yeah.
characters together that you might not have normally done.
I
So
always
for
loved
those
in,
who don't know, the Lego Avengers one was Greg voices Killian.
Yeah.
And what you have to do is die and then respawn as Killian, which
Yep.
is super easy, but the
Yeah.
trophy is really just for the play on words. And
Yeah,
then it's
it's
called
cool.
Beyond.
So
Yeah, I don't blame anybody for expecting trophies in their games, because a lot of people have been, for as long as they've been gamers, trophies and achievements have been
Yeah.
hardwired into their
Yeah.
games. So that's just part of the experience. They expect it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I don't hold it
It's
against
also,
anybody
we've
at all.
all kind of been getting notifications of one kind or another for 15 years
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
Just having that level of like, oh, there's a little envelope icon somewhere on my computer. I wonder what it means. My
Right.
phone just buzzed. What could that be?
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
Yeah.
I got a
We're
little
so
plunk
used to that.
noise. And one of my favorites was, and this I love because I found it by accident, was in Red Dead Redemption. If you tie someone to the train tracks and the train
yeah,
runs them over,
yeah.
it just goes dastardly. And I was
Yeah.
like, all right, that's cool.
Yeah,
I
that's
like that-
great.
Yeah,
a little
it-
snidely whiplash.
Yeah,
Twirly
thought just
mustache.
ahead of me.
So yeah, that's a little conversation about trophies. Let us know what you think. Email us or what's our email?
It's
Beyond at
Beyond@IGN.com.
cool car guy 123 at hotmail.com.
That guy's gonna get so many
I'm
letters. He's
sorry,
gonna be
cool
like,
car
"This
guy.
sucks."
It's just beyond at IGN.com.
Yeah. Do we have time for any rapid fire? Are we
I'm
good?
not letting you skip this Gran Turismo story.
Yeah, here we go.
Gran
We got an
Turismo Sport
argument in,
has been delayed to 2017. I think this matters because
Okay.
Gran Turismo is an awesome series,
Okay.
and people like it.
One of the most consistently delayed franchises.
Consistently delayed.
Which is funny because it's a racing game. And I love that you were like, it's a great racing game, and I'm like, no, it's actually the ultimate driving simulation, plebe. And also, if it's going to take it 5 more months to come out after Forza, I think Forza won that race. If they are in fact competing.
I don't know if I've ever told this story on the show, but I was friends with a guy in college when I lived in New York City who literally couldn't make rent, but put like $3,000 into creating this like ridiculous custom cockpit for Gran Turismo to play on his, I believe, PS2 back then. Like it had sticks and everything, and it was just like his apartment looked like a crack house, but in the center of it was this like $3,000 gaming rig with a TV in the front of it.
There are plenty of crack houses that have half-assembled cars in the middle of the
Also true.
Yeah, so people get into this franchise. They really
Yes,
do.
which is why I think it matters. So Gran Turismo Sport has been delayed to 2017. It was originally meant for November 15 in Japan and North America. We don't know when it's been delayed to. And I was kind of wondering if it might partly be to avoid competing with Forza Horizon.
No.
I think it's
No?
probably, I would say VR support would be
Could be.
because people who again put car rigs in their house
Yeah.
are the kind of people who are going to be like, hell yeah.
You guys met Cisco that we
They've
work
been
with?
showing it off
Yeah.
with.
He does it all the time.
They've shown off the PlayStation VR support for
Yeah.
that game.
Yeah.
before.
I would say probably,
Yeah,
polishing
I don't
that.
know if this is like directly head to head with something like Forza, which is I believe
It's not entirely. It's more head to head with Motorsport.
right.
Would be my understanding, and there isn't one of those out this year. So,
Mm-hmm.
but writing on the PlayStation blog, the Polyphony founder
Can you what?
Kazunori Yamauchi.
Polyphony. I like
Is
that.
that not how I'm supposed to say it?
Polyphony.
Polyphony.
Don't ask me why.
You're
by
Australian.
the
You
way.
can say it however you
That's
want.
true,
We
and
just
it's
have to
just
go,
an accent.
oh, yeah, that's her way of doing that. That's fine.
Thank you. He said, as we approach our planned release date in November, we realized we needed more time to perfect GT Sport, which is pretty much what they always say. It's like, well, we just need more time to make this thing good. It's like, but we haven't really heard
Well,
from that game.
no one ever says,
recently.
like, we're screwing up.
One of the cars had a ticking noise coming for the engine, so we had to go under the hood
Yeah, but
and
you know,
figure
like
out what
that
the
second
problem was.
Uncharted 4 release date was like, well, we just want to make sure that everyone gets their shipments.
That one, yeah, that
just like,
that one
shut
pissed me off.
And it's
we just
better
want to
than
make
them.
sure you all have it.
It's
But
better than them shipping the game in November and going, you know what? We didn't want to deal with the bugs. We didn't want to hear you belly
Yeah.
aching about a delay. Like, of course, delay it, make it good, make
Yeah.
it as good
I
as it can
heard
be.
there was a glitch and the airbags were going off after the second lap.
Yeah.
Every car just.
Sponsored by Toyota.
Yeah.
So it does mean that there's only 2 first-party PlayStation games coming out at the end of the year, which is The Last Guardian and Gravity Rush 2.
Yeah.
Which I'm still totally fine with because they both look great.
Yeah.
We still have a few really cool-looking exclusives like Drawn to Death. We don't know when that's coming out exactly. Still on their site says sometime this year. The Tomorrow Children, which I think looks awesome. Totally look that up. Again, no release date on that, but it's supposed to be like a Minecraft-style social economic, I don't know, thing. It's,
Soviet Union themed post-apocalyptic dystopia. Okay.
Yeah, that's how Engadget described
a
it,
lot
which I
of
feel is
words.
very confusing, but it looks really cool. What Remains of Edith Finch doesn't have a release
looked
date either.
really good when I saw
so
it.
that's like a series of short stories focused on this one family.
I'm gonna bet a
it looks
skeleton.
really cool.
It's what remains of Edith Finch. I don't want to spoil it, but I bet
Possibly.
it's a skeleton covered in leaves.
Yeah. And then the last one is Hellblade:
horrible.
Senua's Sacrifice, which is another one that doesn't have a release date that I kind of doubt is coming out this year. But there's still, a lot of really cool exclusives coming out.
So I've
for
said
the
this
rest of the
before
year.
on the show, but I feel like their bet of not hedging so hard on first party stuff paid off. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
and I think they're probably looking at the scenario now going like, do we really need to spend a ton of our own money like
man.
getting exclusives? We could just get exclusive
I'm gonna
third party
be
content.
playing a hot Xbox One exclusive on my PS4 this fall.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, Ryan.
No, I mean it's just
Yeah.
like that battle. I mean, if you look at, I think was it last year that there were no major PS4 first party games in the fourth quarter?
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like nobody bats an eyelash. It's just like when they've figured out the magic formula. Yeah, I mean Microsoft. I don't even think it's. Man, it's subjective, but I think it's pretty clear they have a better first-party lineup to date
Oh, yeah.
than Sony has
Yeah.
had. But yeah, people love their PS4s, and the third-party games usually run a little better on PS4. And
Yeah. I mean, end of the day,
hasn't slowed them down.
Microsoft got their start making software, and Sony got their start making consumer electronics. So it makes complete sense that one would kind of.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, it's also like, I mean, if they're paying to keep studios running for games like Last Guardian and Gran Turismo that are just,
Taking
constantly taking their sweet
Hey man,
ass time.
sorry we're late. We had to add 1,000 new cars to the game.
The airbag in Last Guardian kept going.
Yeah,
off.
the bird got out of. We were mocapping it, and it got out the window because we left it open. It's going to be another
pooping.
7 years.
He pooped
Shout
everywhere.
out to Gravity Rush 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do a thing on this show called Rapid Fire, named after Brian Altano, Apid Fire. Where
not
we people in the
How letters work.
this is for who cares? No one cares how letters work. You send them to a
good
loved
point.
one, and you tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree.
Oh, dang.
These are from our YouTube group.
Really?
You can go to youtube.com/IGNBeyond, where we upload weird stuff like me and Marty playing Titanfall after margaritas or whatever the hell else we put up this week.
You guys should do Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to do that.
I love
that.
that.
Let's totally do that.
President Weasel has been elected and back into office.
That game is about saving the president's daughter, so we
There
can
you
call
go.
her Weasel if you want.
There you go.
All right. AM Polo 23, hypothetical question. If Nintendo gives Sony one of its IPs, which one would you want it to be?
Metroid. It's the
Yeah,
one that
completely.
they're doing the least with.
Yep,
I
totally.
love Metroid. Federation Force bummed me out like crazy. I tried I played that game for probably an hour and a half on my flight to Germany and an hour and a half on the way back. And when you're on an airplane, you will do anything to kill time. And that didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
So it really bums me out, especially because we're in this era where 2D Metroidvanias are constantly happening. Axiom Verge is one of them. Guacamelee is another
Yep.
one that I really, really love.
Guacameelee's great.
Yeah, Shovel Knight to a lesser extent.
Shadow Complex.
Shadow Complex.
Shadow
is now on
Complex, yeah,
PS4.
it's on PS4. I've been saying this for so long. I would love for somebody competent to take that genre and do something awesome with it. Nintendo's not doing anything with it. In this hypothetical magical world where Nintendo just goes, here you go, then
Yeah.
that's the one.
Yeah, just get into-
F-Zero.
Oh, yeah.
F-Zero.
Man.
That would be...
Have you seen Fast Racing Neo? It's they made a Wii U. This third party made a Wii U game that's F-Zero in everything but the name.
Yeah.
And I think they brought it to Nintendo, and Nintendo was like, "Well, we didn't make it." And then they were just like, "All right, we'll call it Fast Racing Neo instead of F-Zero." But yeah, I would love to see that running on PS4 hardware, especially in like VR. God,
Yeah.
Yeah.
really good.
God, that would be so good.
Alana, what about you?
I have no answer to this question.
Donkey Kong.
Donkey King.
All right, fair enough.
No,
Donkey
I
Kong.
feel like Metroid's a really good answer because there's a million things that I would like to see on other consoles like Pokemon,
Yeah.
but that's not
Yeah.
gonna happen. Like I'd
Yeah.
love to see a console hardware version of Pokemon, but I mean, there's no reason the Wii U
All right.
couldn't do that. They just wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Speaking of things you wouldn't do, Chase Williams asked, if you could make anyone poop their pants right now, who would you pick?
Max. He's
Really?
hosting the show. I mean, you guys would all get to see that.
How do you know I don't poop my pants already? As a good way of keeping the bullies from knowing.
Well, we would know in this room because one time on Unlocked, Maggie farted and it hotboxed the whole room, and everything just smelled like farts.
Maggie's a dog. We should point that out for
Maggie
people
is
who
a
don't
dog.
know
Not
that
an
that's
employee.
not
Yeah.
a person who works.
You know, Maggie from accounting.
Farting Maggie from accounting.
Man,
She was in HR. There was nothing we could do about it. She's already in HR. What are you going to do? Tell HR?
probably Taylor Swift.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that.
Just because it'd probably be like, I'd go back to my desk and it would be like trending on Facebook. It'd be like, Taylor Swift poops in her pants.
She
I'm like,
she did jury duty this week, so I would love for those stories to combine.
That'd be good. Yeah.
Taylor Swift tries to
crap
poop to
their
get out of
pants in
jury
jury
duty. Oh,
and the verdict is
jury duty, am I right?
yes, you are.
I pick Justin Bieber just because he seems like he needs to be humbled.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
I
a
mean,
big dump in the pants in
He
public.
needs the old Fabio bird to the face on a roller coaster treatment.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd say Jay-Z.
Jay
Because it'd be
Z.
funny.
What did Hova do to you?
I love Jay Z. Don't leave Jay Z out of this.
Well, he cheated on Beyonce.
You gotta get
no, he
that
didn't.
dirt
That
out
was
your
fake.
trousers.
That was. I mean, I'm sure he probably did.
He almost
Alright.
definitely did.
Yes, I think they
Okay.
have an open relationship.
Ollie511 says, what's the most memorable Christmas gift that you ever received?
Is that a skateboard stunt? An Ollie 511?
Yes.
Yeah, that's when you are unable to complete a 720.
The most memorable Christmas gift I ever got was I got an original Game Boy. I don't know if I told the story on the show. I opened up all my presents, and my parents were like, "How was Christmas?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was pretty good." And they're like, "Oh, did you get everything you wanted?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess." My mom was like, "Did you check your stocking?"
Oh.
And I was like, "No," thinking there'd be like candy in there or something. And I walked over, and my brothers both had these like stockings that were like big saggy socks full of candy. and mine just had a huge rectangle in it. Like it looked like a snake swallowed a Game Boy. And I took out the box, and it was it was the original Game Boy with Tetris in it. It had that cool like hologram laser kid playing. Yeah, it made me so happy.
That's what you turn into if you play too much Game Boys. You turn into a laser vector child.
I lost a lot of friends like that in the 90s.
Vectoritis. It's real bad.
Yeah, mine was probably a Nintendo 64. My sister and I got one. It was one of the Pokemon Stadium ones, and there's all these photos of me crying.
Did you? So you like that? You've seen that N64 kid video?
No.
What?
Was it me?
Have you ever seen
I love that.
Yeah.
I get yelled at for using too many video thumbnails.
There was a kid that there's a like famous viral video of a kid opening up a Nintendo 64.
Really?
And he flips out and screams, and he's like tearing it open. Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's one of the happiest.
Me. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. He was a boy, so I mean, you have a lot of
was I.
explaining to do. Oh, okay.
Ryan, what about you?
This will date me a bit, and even though this didn't end well at the time, I was very excited to get an Atari Lynx, the handheld.
Oh yeah,
which was pretty awesome in the moment.
Do you remember the marketing for that thing?
I don't know if I do.
So do you remember the commercial for it?
No, definitely don't remember
the commercial for it. Was one of the first handhelds that you could connect to another handheld and play multiplayer.
Oh, that's right. There was like a link cable.
It was two kids in like a public school bathroom taking dumps, and the cable was under.
That.
Yeah, the cable was underneath like the toilet cells, and they're like, yeah, playing like Surf's Up or like Three Ninjas Kick Back or whatever.
All right.
So there's that. What about you, Max?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm trying to think. I feel like I didn't.
Do you ever get video games for Christmas?
No, my mom was kind of an asshole about that. She didn't get me video games. I got a lot of cool Lego sets probably. The first thing that comes to mind is from last Christmas. Jen got me the Aliens Power Loader.
Yeah.
The NECA one, which
I remember
is
she
sick.
texted me before that, and she's like, "Would Max like this?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Yes, 100%."
So it's just this like 17-pound like chunk of plastic that I got Ripley in, and it's like it's one of the few action figures I keep in my home because I'm like, this is awesome. Also, I don't want anyone breaking it at work because it's too awesome. All right. Maroth says, if you had to work anywhere other than IGN, where would it be? Not necessarily in a journalistic or video games based capacity.
I'll go first. I would be the play-by-play TV announcer for pretty much any Major League Baseball team.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you'd be awesome.
Dream
would
job.
be really good at that.
That'd be so cool, yeah.
I've watched baseball. The one gift God gave me was a good radio voice. So yeah, that and the travel would kind of suck. I mean, you're just gone for 6 months of the year practically, or at least you're home and back all the time. But man, that would be cool. That would be cool for me.
I think that'd be perfect for you too, because you're also like you have the radio voice, but you're also good at vamping. Like you.
I can. And you got to fill time in a baseball
about
game.
that.
Yeah.
Like there's just hours where nothing happens, and you're like, so did you guys hear the story of Grimaldi's Pizza? You can just tell that story.
When you're playing in New York, it's just like while you're waiting for a pitching change.
We're in a good pizza town here. Let's talk about that for 45 minutes. All right. Oh,
Hey,
the
if you
man's
were
here.
a hot dog, would you eat yourself? I know I would.
Probably podcasting, something like that. That's what I would do.
You do get paid to podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I
That's
would just
kind of
keep doing it. I would just do it more.
Yeah, I
I'd
mean,
love
you're
to
allowed
just
to
do
do it
a
elsewhere.
morning zoo show with you.
Yeah.
Just do like the worst
waking up with Max
crowdfunded
and
daily.
Brian.
Yeah. I mean, we've said specifically, like, we do Up at Noon once a week. If we could do it like a 30-minute version every day, that'd be awesome. Where we're just like, hey, look at this. Like a squirrel got loose at Home Depot.
If we could do like an IGN All Stars daily morning show,
God, I would love that.
I could be a part of with you guys.
I would love
People
that so
actually
much.
have
That could
had
be my
conversations
job.
about
Yeah.
that. I had a conversation about that with someone like 2 days ago.
was-
Wouldn't that be cool?
I would love to do that.
See, and that's the thing. Like with Up at Noon, we try to make it so it's a weird catch-all of stuff that's like outside of our sort of Rubik's cube of patterns that we cover everything here. So if they let us do that in the mornings, where we can just like, hey, a squirrel got loose at Home Depot. I really want to talk about that squirrel for a few minutes.
Yeah. Turns
That'd
out
be really cool.
Justin Bieber pooped his pants, and Taylor Swift also pooped her pants, but it was a different, unrelated incident. It seems like there's some turd wizards out there.
And every now and then there's a knock on the door, and it's Steve Butts, and he's like, "Are you boys talking about that squirrel again?" We're like, "No, Dad." You know who else pooped their pants? It's Polyphony over at Gran Turismo because they delayed their game.
Polyphony.
Yeah.
I would totally work at Rare. I would love to
Do all the
do
Banjo-Kazooie sound
anything at
effects.
Rare. Yeah, I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures. I haven't been there, but apparently their
looks
campus
beautiful.
is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
and it's in the middle of like nowhere.
So super cool,
In the
but
woods.
when GoldenEye came out on the N64, Nintendo Power did this spread on Rare's headquarters in where is it? Is in Leeds, I think.
No, it's the name of a town, and I'll think of it way
Yeah.
later.
I
but
think it's like a small
starts with a T.
place.
So they did this whole like spread about how to what it was like to break into Rare, like as a secret agent, basically, and it showed all their statues in their courtyard and all that kind of stuff. Every now I follow them on Twitter, and every now and then they'll tweet like
post
something
picture.
from
Yeah,
campus.
it looks so cool.
It's sort of like it's like the UK's Pixar. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
Twycross
There you go.
is the name
Oh
of the town.
man.
It's a place that like I'd never heard of
Twycross
outside of
is
that.
an awesome puzzle game.
I was gonna say that. It sounds like a PS1 JRPG.
Man, I would love
That'd
to
be
just
great.
do something with toys. Like I'd love to
Yep.
be like
Alana's job.
Yeah,
not
you
a
want my
toy
job?
designer. That would be great. But no, like I think that honestly, like overseeing it, like working for someone like NECA or Sideshow and just doing like
So-
licensor relations.
I mean,
Yeah.
Sideshow started doing a pretty regular live show where basically they're just like, hey, check out this new thing we got this week. And it's like the people on that show are just like, yeah, this thing's pretty rad. And it's like, so you guys just get to do that all
do
the
the kind
time?
of stuff where I would
You
just
get to do that all the time. That's
They get
literally
to do
your
it with like $700 things every day.
Get on
Yeah.
the phone. They'll send it to you.
Serious question for you, Max. If you had that job though, would it ruin the magic of those toys and figures for you? Sort of the
No.
how the sausage is made thing.
No, I mean,
know.
did this job run games for
Well,
you?
but I think about like, so I just went to Disneyland on vacation with my family, and I love Disneyland. I've loved it ever since I was a kid. But I would never want to work there.
Oh, no, never.
Never in a
That's
million
different.
years
Right.
want to work there. And so that's why I
I
was
mean, I think
curious.
if it's kind of a creative, like it would actually, I wouldn't want to just be doing like community management, like vamping about stuff. I'd want to be like helping oversee the production of something and being like, okay, so we've just got the license for Sling Blade. What does he come with? And I'd be like, he needs to come with French fried potatoes, and he needs to come with, also he's biscuits and mustard, and you're like, what? And like, yeah, no, it's fans of the series are gonna love this, like
Yeah.
the kind of weird deep cut stuff where you're like, this is like actually, I don't know. I think that doing something that's not. I don't know if I would get sick of toys. I kind of never have. I don't know.
That's great.
That's a tough
You
thing. But
haven't.
I do-
It's been 30 years and you haven't yet.
Yeah, that's a
Look
good
at
sign.
our desk. Our desk at work is
Yeah.
covered in toys.
Also, the great thing about toys is like they're not like games where like if you're bad at them, except with like Chucky, if they're like possessed by the ghost of a child molester.
Well,
maybe,
also,
but,
it's
like,
not great.
They're very timeless in that like if I want. So I went. I was in Paris with Goldfarb and Zach last week, and we found this entire street that was basically like the Akihabara of Paris, and it's all retro game shops. And I'm walking around, and I'm like, first of all, these are all PAL games, so I can't play them at home. But second of all, like retro games, like there's been so many times I've been like, I want to collect them, but then like, where do they go?
Yeah.
Where do I keep them? But toys, like I buy toys from the 80s or 90s all the time, and they sit next to my Star Wars toys from last week, and it just works.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah, like toys, books, and like
Records.
comics and records are really the things that are kind of future proofed in that
permanent.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're not region locked. Like I love that. You can go to another country and find
Well,
stuff you've never
You
seen
can get a
before.
region locked toy. It's just a toy that no one here understands,
Yeah.
like Tintin.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I collect statues, not toys, and they're kind of
They're
region
so
locked. but they
condescending when you
break.
said
They're
that.
region locked by gravity.
Yeah,
and
so they like
physical
you
space.
try and transport them and they just fall apart pretty
Yeah.
much. That's not great.
Yeah.
Should we do one more?
the statues aren't fun toys. They're just big
They're
eyesores.
literally not toys. They're
Yeah.
just giant wastes
Yeah.
of money.
All right, so
Fine.
Sam Bagel 12 says, "What game would you say that you consider yourself to be an expert on?"
My
Man,
answer to this is nothing.
like, so is that a game that like I've beaten 100 times? Because Resident Evil 4 is one of them. This
That
probably
you know
I
everything
think,
about.
is it a
Oh,
game or
yeah.
a game
No, Resident Evil 4 is one of those
series?
games where I can like, I know where every hidden like little thing is around the world. Like you drop, same with something like Ocarina of Time. I think you drop me in a game like that, and I start running around. I know where everything is. For a while there, it was Uncharted 2. Like I knew where every hidden
a
thing
really
was in
good
that game. Man, yeah, this is a tough one.
Yeah, I don't think. I've-
Lore-wise, I know the most about Gears of War because I read all the books and read all the comics and I really like those games. But I kind of would prefer to distance myself from being an expert on any one thing. And as we said with trophies before, just experience a lot of things.
Yeah,
I think.
the original Legend of Zelda is the kind of game that people have played it in this office in front of me, and I've walked over and I've been like, "Can I see that?" And they hand me the controller. The way like Colin Moriarty is with like Mega Man 2 and 3, I am like that with the original Zelda. Where I'll go and I'll get you every heart piece and every rupee and every like character, weapon, item upgrade before you walk into the first dungeon. So you walk into the first thing and you're just like, "What's up?" Ready to rock.
Yeah. I maybe used to be able to say Halo because as far as the entire series, but the lore has gotten so deep now with the books and the comics
and the internet. There's
internet.
that. I mean, I think that we have jobs trying to cover a lot of different stuff, and to be like, oh, we're experts on a widely listened to podcast about games. There's somebody else who's going to be like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
But I'm the expert.
I would say just Doom 1. Like, I probably know where every secret is. I know every monster. I've played the original Doom. That was a transformative game for me. And I could probably tell you anything about it.
Dude, I really want to do a let's play of that game with you because I played the original Doom like 1,000 times, but I have no sense of direction in that game. It all sort of melts together for me. Like I can tell you I could probably draw the first level top down from memory, but everything after that is a blur.
Well, the maze-like level design was intentional and awesome at the time. I mean, it's some of those levels really are almost mazes where you're just like, okay, tab to bring up the overhead map. Where have I not filled in yet? Let me wander over there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think I played it on PC first, and I didn't know there was an overhead map for like 3 years. So that didn't help.
I would say maybe Duke Nukem 3D.
Hail to the king.
I'm a dirty dude. I went to the bathroom down in the stairwell.
I pooped my pants again. What are you waiting for?
Who took a jump in the podcast room?
I don't like this at all.
Yeah, but I mean, like I've played through that a bunch. Honestly, again, like there are people who are going through like surface by surface and remodeling everything and being like, yeah, these textures for the poster for Bleach Blonde Biker Bimbo Babes needs to get redone in Unreal 4 or whatever. And I'm just like, I don't know.
I'm going to open a breakfast shop named Max Sconeville.
Wow, he really would do that.
He would do that.
100% do
that. My friends and I in college were like, we're the best at GoldenEye, and people from other schools would come by and we would just whoop their asses all over that game. Like we would do the thing where we'd play like proximity mines in the facility, and we would put the mines in all the starting points. It's the best map. We'd put the mines in all the starting points, so I would shoot you, and it would be like da-na, 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 da-na. I would chain like 15 deaths in a row, and I'm like, I'm awesome at this game. And then like leaderboards started coming out for games, and I'm like, oh, I'm not even in the top million in the world. It was so humbling. Like the second games went online, and you could see how well you were clocked with everybody else. I was like, I'm crappy at this game.
Always like that in fighting games. I'm like, I beat all my friends. I'm great at this, and then I play online. I'm like, oh no, I'm terrible.
It's like that King of the Hill where Peggy goes to the Boggle Championships. Well, anyway, this is Podcast Beyond.
God,
Thank you all for listening. We need to get out of this room. It's small.
I do need to open this thing first.
Oh, yeah, we should open the thing.
Somebody sent us something.
You guys
I'll tell you what. You open that box.
Open that box there.
Is there any problem?
I think this is the third week in a row that somebody has sent us a thing.
Last week we got a copy of Ghost.
Before that we got a board game. So.
Yeah.
We're getting a weird collection of stuff. I don't know what this is going to be, but it's potentially nothing.
If you want to mail us,
Amazon can't just send you nothing, or maybe they can.
Oh, I bet they can.
It's probably a Vita memory
I'll bet they'll
card.
sell you that.
All right, so if you want to send us some garbage to talk about on the show, or just whatever, it's just mail it to Podcast Beyond, care of IGN, which is 625 2nd Street, 4th floor, San Francisco, California 94107. What does it say, Alana?
Beyond. Okay, so I heard that you thought crafting in No Man's Sky was a birch. It does say birch. That's very nice of you. We don't have to bleep that.
Like birch beer? I love that soda.
So I thought I
East Coast
would
represent?
get you some crafting supplies. NMS made crafting a pain in the ash. I love you so much. And I was more grinding needed to make new things. Have fun.
Okay.
All right. I don't know what this is going to be at all.
I was really hoping for like a birch beer after I heard that.
I could go for a large
Something to do. This is some kind of crafting joke, I think.
It's so small. It's a little envelope.
It's very, very tiny. We have beads.
Beads.
What?
Literally beads.
Bag of big value beads.
Oh. Yeah, they've got little pictures of owls and stuff on them.
Do they really?
One of them has an owl. Is that an owl? I can't tell.
I love the eclectic. We have a copy of Ghost on DVD. We have a board game, and we have beads. One time someone said a steak, and there was ham.
These look
Who
like
was this sent from?
these look like
We don't know
bug
who it was
eggs.
sent from.
Okay, I want to say thank you to whoever sent this, but also that's probably the least excited I've ever been to open something from Amazon. And I've ordered some of them. I've ordered like cleaning supplies from Amazon. Beads.
Yep. Don't know who it's
Once
from.
for dinner.
We do not know who
Big
this is from.
value. Doris jewelry designer makes beads. Printed oval wood beads. Perles en bois ovales imprimés.
All right.
Fancy.
right.
Thanks for listening to the podcast Beat On.
Ryan, thank you for joining us. Where
Happy
can
to
they
be
find
here.
you?
At DMC_Ryan on the Twitter and on Podcast Unlocked if you also enjoy Xbox
And
things.
you did an awesome interview show too.
Yeah, I'm really proud of Unfiltered. It's just a monthly thing because, boy, that's really hard to
It's a
get
lot.
guests for. But yeah, it's a monthly interview show. Think Charlie Rose, but with video game people. It's usually hour-long interviews. Peter Moore is the new one that just went up.
That's
so
awesome.
He was at Sega on the sort of tail end of Saturn, but then the Dreamcast era. He tells some good Dreamcast stories. Including one about how they were focus testing. Like they knew things were bad when they did like a focus test and asked people, "Hey, if this company were a person, what kind of person would it be?" And they're like, "Well, okay, 2K is like the cool but drunk uncle who just shows up from time to time, and then you don't see him again for months. And then, but Sega is the grandpa who used to be cool but thinks he's still cool and isn't cool anymore." So I don't know. There's some good stories.
That is
Check
That's
that out.
awesome, man.
And you can find the rest of us on Twitter. I'm Max Scoville, Alana is Charlanazard, and Brian is Agent Bizzle. And we'll be back next week with all kinds of great stories about everything. Who cares?
Call me from
Wait,
New
no,
York if
next
you want
week
me to.
is the live show, man.
Neo
So that's-
thing, maybe.
What time
Hopefully
is that?
Neo.
Live show?
Noon Pacific, 3 Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
And also there's
And
a
the
Beyond
pre-show
panel
before
at
that.
PAX.
Yeah, there is also a
time?
Beyond
What
Panel at
theater?
PAX, which is on Saturday at, I believe, the Wyvern. Just look it up in the
Look
app.
it up on the computer. And on that note, we got to get
Think
out of here
it's
because
11.
they have to record another podcast in here. So let's
Yeah,
run away
we
as
did
fast
it
as we
bad.
can.
Beyond.